Hi, this is Darren from Property Prosperity. Today I thought I'd have a little chat about termites. I know a lot of you probably have heard about them before and probably pretty scared of them, worried about them getting into your house and attacking your house. So I thought I'd have a bit of a chat to you about the ways we can try and prevent termites. And I suppose the first thing you need to think about is, if we're going to try and work out how we're going to stop them, we have to really understand, how they work in the first place and how they get into a house and how they're going to eat away at that little house for us. So if you don't know, termites eat wood or timber in the world of building. They're called. And so that's what they like to eat, and so that's what they're looking for. They're not necessarily out there looking to eat houses. Their preference is to eat other types of wood. They eat old tree roots and old tree trunks and all that sort of stuff. So they're not necessarily out there just trying to eat houses, and so that's the first thing to understand is they're out there just looking for a supply of wood to eat, and so that's the first thing we can try and do is try and keep wood away from our house. So if we've got an old timber trunk or something else lying around near our house, then that's obviously it's going to attract termites. So that's the first thing. So firstly, we don't want to attract them to our area in the first place, and that's probably one of the reasons why termites are attracted to houses nowadays. Is the fact that more and more houses, properties now are all covered in concrete, which means it's going to less places for them to be able to eat, essentially, and so they're going to eat whatever they can. And I'm sure their preference is not to eat a house; they'd rather eat a nice big tree. But there's less and less trees around, so they end up just getting into wherever they can, basically. So the other thing to understand about termites is they don't like the light. So what that means is they're going to burrow underground, and if they are going to come above ground, they're going to build like a little tunnel because they don't like to get out in the light. So that's why one of the rules of building, it's actually, I think it's the standard number 3660 or something like that is the standard. It actually says that because we know termites don't come out through the light. Hey John, thanks for joining. We know termites, I hope you're going alright with your holiday there. I don't know why you're watching me, so, but anywho, so termites don't like to come through, don't like to go out in the light, and so what they're going to do is, and they don't like to eat through concrete, obviously, so if they're going to come underground, they're going to dig their way up into your house, so they're probably going to come through what they call a penetration, which is basically the pipes that come through your concrete slab, or for a whole pile of different purposes. They're going to come through there, and so by law, or they brought in the standards, which says that they actually have to what's called a physical barrier. They have to do termite protections around the penetration. So they put something called, one of the products is called Termimesh, is like a mesh substance, or another one's called cordon, or there's a whole pile of other different things. Cordon's a bit like a plastic, and it's got insecticide built into the plastic, so basically, the termites don't like the insecticide, so they'll go away and kill all their family and stuff when they get the insecticide on them. So there's a few different products around. They're just brand names essentially, but there's different ways of trying to do it. So what the builder will have to do is actually stick some of this, material around the pipe that penetrates in through the house. So when the termites come to get through, they just can't get through there because that barrier is stopping them getting through into the house. So that's the first thing you can do is just meet the building regulations. So that's the first thing that all builders have to do essentially, is to make sure they meet their building requirements, and that's to stop the termites getting through the penetrations. But saying that, that's actually just coming up under the slab. The other options, they can come just in from the side of the slab, so they can just come into your house from the outside essentially. So one of the things you can do to try and stop that is, by putting concrete paths around the outside of your house, you're actually protecting your house. There's a whole pile of other benefits to putting concrete paths around your house. It's actually good for stormwater and a whole pile of different things. At the end of the day, you want to try and protect the footings of the house, understanding the house is sitting on top of the footings, and structurally, that's where the strength comes from. If you look at a house, it's just a little timber frame, just like twigs holding the whole thing together. And the reason they can do that is because they've got this strong footing that sits there, and it's really solid and structurally sound that you can build almost anything on. As long as that maintains its structural integrity, then you shouldn't have too many problems with the rest of the house. So generally, when you get cracking or you get things going wrong with your house as far as movement, it's because your footings aren't necessarily doing what you'd hope they do essentially. So that being said, so you really want to protect your footing. So putting concrete paths around the outside, or pavers around the outside, and that's going to get all the water to come away from the footing. So firstly, that's a good thing just to protect your footings in the first place. But then secondly, it's also going to make it a lot harder for the termites to try and get into your house then. Because remember what we talked about was that termites don't like to come outside, and so they'll have to, they're stuck then, they're going to have to try and work out how they're going to get across this path into your house. And so generally what they're going to do is they're going to build little tunnels, and you're going to see this little tunnel made out of mud coming through, getting towards your house, and that's the point you ring up your exterminator, your termite inspector, to come in and check out what's going on with the termites, and they'll come in and they'll spray and try and get rid of them. Essentially, yeah, it's pretty hard to get rid of termites, to be honest. They're going to try and kill off as many as they can, but they're probably just going to go next door and attack your neighbour's house. But you know, it's better than attacking your house, essentially. So the other thing you can do is what's called a physical barrier. Is the standards require that your paths around the outside of the house are actually lower than the top of your slab. So remember, the termites don't like to eat concrete, and so even if they do build their little tunnel that's coming across the paths, they'll then have to, if you've got a height difference between the top of your slab and the top of the concrete path, they're going to have to build a little tunnel that's going to come up the side of your concrete slab, and then so before they can try and get into your house. So that's the other cool thing. You'll be able to see this tunnel coming across your path, and then you also have to build a tunnel trying to get up inside your house. So that's an extra protection for you. So it's another reason why, if you're at, you know, building inspectors going to come and check it out for you. But likewise, you know, if you want to try and work out whether your house is compliant as far as council building requirements are, you should make sure there's a step down between the top of your slab and where the actual path is. Because you imagine if the top of the slab and the path are lined up together, or even worse, there's dirt leaning up against your slab, or the path is higher than where the top of the slab is, the termites can just basically walk straight across the dirt, in through the bricks, straight into your house. So that's the first thing that you really want to make sure is you've got a concrete path around the outside, and when you've got the concrete path, there's actually a step down between the top of the slab and the concrete path, and that's going to stop the termites trying to get into your house as well. Or at least you're going to see them building their little tunnel, so it's going to stop. You'll be able to have a chance to call the termite inspector and get them to come and get rid of the termites, basically. The other option you can do as well, we talked about that the termite material that can try and stop the termites. So that's called, you know, cordon or Termimesh, or a whole pile of different brand names for these different products. You can actually, as well as putting it in the penetrations around the pipes to try and stop them coming in, you can actually put it around the outside of the house, and they call that the perimeter of the house. So it does cost some money, but if you really want that peace of mind, you're really worried about termites, then you can put the this little mesh, or the little material, the insecticide laden material, all the way around the outside of the house, and your bricks actually sit on top of this material. And if you want to try and work out whether your house has that, you can actually go up and have a look at the edge of your house. You'll see where the path is, and then you'll see the top of the slab, and then you'll see a bit of plastic sticking out the side of your house, and then you'll see your bricks sitting on top of the plastic. A lot of people think they have termite protection because they see that plastic hanging out the side. The first thing to understand is one of those pieces of plastic is going to be for what they call a damp-proof membrane. So it's just a piece of plastic, basically, to try and stop the water coming through from the slab up into the house. There also, it should be another piece of plastic there, which could be the cordon material, or it could be Termimesh, which actually looks like a metal mesh. So if you see you've got two bits poking out there, probably you've got termite protection around the outside of your house. Obviously, I can't 100% guarantee it, but it's a pretty good sign. If you've got two bits of plastic, there's something going on there, because you shouldn't really have two bits of plastic there. So it probably means you've got termite protection going around the outside of your house as well. So it just gives you that double peace of mind. One thing I'll just point out too is a lot of marketing goes towards, I don't know if you know, but there's timber framed houses. So the timber frame actually holds the house up. When you see what's called a brick veneer house, they have bricks on the outside of the house, and they have a timber frame, and they have gyprock on the inside. The thing to understand, when you see a brick veneer house and you see bricks on the outside, the bricks are there as it's described. It's just a veneer. It's just to look pretty. Basically, it's called a face brick. It just looks good on the outside, and it sort of provides some sort of weather protection to your house. But essentially, that's not holding your house up at all. What's holding your house up is the timber frame. So I don't know if you know, they talk about double brick houses. So that means there's a layer of brick on the inside and a layer of brick on the outside, and the actual bricks are holding the whole house up. Whereas a brick veneer house, the timber frame is holding the house up, and the bricks on the outside are just there to look pretty and sort of protect the facade of the house, basically. So that being said, if your house is a brick veneer house, it will have a timber frame in there, and what that means is that's attracting to the termites, basically. So there's a couple of options as far as that goes. you can actually get that timber in dipped in insecticide, and so that means that when the termites get in there and want to eat your timber, they're not going to eat it because they don't really like it too much. Saying that, not necessarily very good for the environment, so maybe a better alternative might be some of those other options I talked about, the physical barriers or the material barriers to try and stop the termites getting through there. Other options are, they talk about nowadays steel frame homes, so the marketing is geared towards the fact that it's going to stop the termites because they're not going to want to come in there and eat steel, essentially, which they won't. So that gives you extra peace of mind as well. Saying that, if you're doing all the other protection, what we talked about, the termite protection to the penetrations and then the perimeter of the house, and then you make sure the slab's built higher than where the footpath is, and then you obviously inspect the house for you have a path around the outside of the house. It's not really that big of a deal whether it's timber frame or it's steel frame, because you've got so many other protection to try and stop the termites anyway. And the other thing with a steel frame house, at the end of the day, you're still going to have a whole pile of the bits of timber throughout the whole house anyway. You're going to have your cabinetry, you're going to have your architraves, which are around the timber around the doors and windows. You're going to have your skirting boards, is all timber. You're going to have a whole pile of timber in your house anyway. So structurally, you're probably safe if you've got a steel frame house because it's not going to eat into the timber there. But likewise, having timber in your termites in your house is not good because they're going to eat out all the rest of the timber anyway. So I'd probably advise, rather than just relying purely on the fact that you've got a steel frame house and then not worrying about termites, probably better to focus on, let's try and stop the termites, and let's not care so much about whether we've got a timber frame and a steel frame house. Let's focus on how do we stop the termites getting in the first place. Because at the end of the day, if they get into your house, they're going to cause a massive hassle anyway. So hopefully that's made sense to everybody. I hope you've, hopefully you're not so stressed about it. I know when I talk to some clients, they're massively stressed out at termites and they're really worried about having termites come into the house. And I go through the same process explaining all the options we have of trying to prevent termites. And then hopefully that puts their mind at ease and they're not so stressed about the whole process. So hopefully it's informed you a little bit. Hopefully it makes a lot more sense to you. If you've got anything you'd like to make a comment on, if you've had issues with termites in the past, then it'd be interesting to find out what caused that issue, because hopefully if you had some of those protections that I've talked about, you wouldn't have some of these issues. But and if you've got something you'd like me to talk about in the future, I'm happy to have a chat. Put a comment in the comment box or put any questions in there. I'm happy to talk about that. And if you've liked what I had to say, click on the like button. If you know someone thinking about building, then click on the share button, because I'm sure they'd really like to understand what they need to know about termites, because a lot of people don't necessarily know, what their options are as far as trying to prevent termites. So thanks guys, nice chatting to you, and I look forward to catching up next time. Bye.